This is the havoc I live in, and you can't even see it. And I'm going to say this because I just put two up that are connected with this, and I'm going to try to go back and put one, two, three videos because they connect. This is to Oprah Winfrey, who has the media at her command. And so does Mrs. Obama, who's just written a book. Let me remind you, Oprah, I wrote a book about mind control murders, which involves being used on some of your own people. Wayne Williams is sitting on, well, he's not on death row. He's in a state prison there in Georgia for killing the two blacks when there were more killed. I've put this up on the tape, so I'm not going to reiterate here. You get the media's attention everywhere you go. So why don't you bother with telling some of this? By the way, I want to mention this young man's name. He's a black man who's in prison. I don't think he's on death row. Brian Nichols. I think his name's Brian Nichols. There's a Nichols that helped Timothy McVeigh, who was programmed, and so that would mean this guy is too. McVeigh was put to death, though, and I put all this up. I'm not going to do it again here on. But anyway, his name was almost like Brian Nichols. But anyway, I've put this up, but you could go back and it's almost like him walking out of prison or this man, Brian Nichols, he's a black man. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is a little garbled. I realize I don't have someone making my speeches or doing anything for me, pulling my clothes alongside of the. Okay, get to the point here. Wayne Williams was in Fulton County, and he's in prison for the killing of the black children in Atlanta. And mind control was used in there. Mary Welcome, I've told this on the other tapes just now, plus a bunch of others. Anyway, where am I now? Bounced around. Okay, let me skip to just this. Okay, your civil rights people. I mean, I don't know of a crime that lets someone get programmed because they have chip illegally put in them. They don't even know it's going in them. They go to the dentist or the doctor. It's heart bypass or it's, and they put chips in them, and they've been putting chips in babies a long, long time. But you put a chip in a root canal, it's sealed, and you found out for some way that someone had put a chip in you, you go and tell him that you want it taken out, he'd call mental health and have you locked up. And you'd be psychotic and treated like James Holmes, who's been given psychotic drugs. And, this man's gone through hell. Okay, let me say this. The young man just out at Ventura, California, that did the shootings, he was a former Marine. They're trying to say now that was probably what do they call it? I'm sorry, I don't know the illness. And they're going back in his history. Well, they've gone back in everybody's history. Paddock, who did the shooting at, I'm trying to get this on this last tape here. For goodness sakes, you know where I'm talking, Las Vegas. They autopsied the poor man's brain, and I don't know, looking for a motive? Well, the motive, look for a chip in him is what you should look for. The man was programmed, for God's sake. Now you've got this young man who's dead, was a former Marine, just like Timothy McVeigh was in your army and fought for you. You would think your veterans that are out today here in Roanoke in Virginia, in Salem right here where I am, the retired vets and all this, and they're honoring all of them. You might think they would get the press to tell the truth and tell you about Timothy McVeigh. He was put to death because being programmed, and he even says it here. I've put it all up, and being in the military and the Marines had nothing to do with this young man in Ventura that just did the shootings any more than he just happened to be in the Army and there, or military, and they went back and they're bringing that up. They want to give you a motive that's a lie. The motive is that he was programmed, and the motive is with the programmers. So go to the programmers, media. You want to go there? So now that you're controlled by the Illuminati, I wanted to get back to Martin Luther King. He partnered with JFK on this mental right years ago, and then he was shot by a program shooter. And he was by a program shooter. Now, Reverend Andrew Young was the Reverend with him when he was shot. Andrew Young was mayor of Atlanta in '82, I believe, December, when I went in, or November, and tried to talk to him. He wouldn't talk to me. Now, I went to Maynard Jackson. I'm getting a little bit confused on the timeline here. He was the one that went to ABC with Lee Brown, the police commissioner, and said Wayne Williams didn't do the crimes, that it was the mechanism used. Didn't tell the mechanism. A few weeks later, I'm trying to hurry, okay? Wayne was arrested, and he's in state prison. He's black. Simpson, OJ's black. Hey, Oprah, why don't you address this? If you've got all these guts and everything, and the camera's following you around, why don't you address it? Why don't you care anything about me, what's been done to me and my family, my sons, my country? By the way, they put you on some big magazine over there the other month or two ago. You want to see what I look like? I guess not. Okay. Martin Luther King knew all this. He was head of civil rights and all this. Okay, Andrew Young was mayor. He was made ambassador to the United Nations, which is your front for your Illuminati. After they took down my father, it paved the way after they took him down. And they're the United Nations up Rockefeller Plaza, Rockefeller Center there in New York. Oh, they're going to have the Christmas tree there. Rockefellers. Right in your face, boy. Okay, here we go. I think we are where, but not say that. They'll come knocking at the door. Oh, well, you must be having a... I think that's why Hustler magazine was, part of this, and me being in the campaign, writing the book, because people will do anything to shut you up if they don't like what you're saying, just like they did to Anastasia. By the way, that's not addressed either. But I thought that she might be interested, Oprah, in telling the truth about O.J. Simpson. He was programmed. The young man that came out of Fulton County, and I think his name is Brian Nichols, I'm not sure. But he came out, that's Fulton County is where Wayne Williams was at and found guilty, and he's in state prison. Now then, this young man is black. He's in state prison. And from all accounts, he had nothing wrong. He was a decent, like some of the rest of them. But he came out shooting, and I've forgotten now. I'd have to look back. I've put it up. You can Google it. He shot, and I think he killed one or two. He shot a deputy and a couple more people. Then he ended up out Gwinnett County, I think. And somehow, he shot a customs officer too. And a key to this was Salisbury. The custom officer, for some reason, was going to Salisbury. But, it fits into a pattern. This whole thing does. So now then, he went into this woman, commandeered her or something, lived out there, and he went to her apartment. And she talked to him all night, and she gave him a book, something of life. I think it was a religious book. And anyway, he ended up turning himself in, or she got out, because she'd made friends with him that night. Somehow the police got called, and he's in jail. Has been, probably for the rest of his life. So I thought Oprah might like to address that, perhaps, and the fact of what they did to me when Henry Mims was there. As far as I know, he's a good man, black attorney. And the thing is, why has no one done anything about this? Because I'll tell you why. Because I was kidnapped, who was involved in the kidnapping, what they did to my country, and it's the global world government that's in charge. Now, I'm showing that. Maybe it's better to show that instead of me. I'm trying to go back and forth. Jimmy Carter made Andrew Young, that I've been talking about, Reverend, uh, ambassador to the UN, which is your global government, your Illuminati. He was real gun-ho down in South Africa, and you'd have to Google that. You could. I don't have time here to go into it again. But this was the whole point, was to take down the British Empire. And that's where Meghan Markle, they're playing the race card. Now, Harry and Meghan are going, oh goodness, they're showing her baby bump, and she's going down there with Harry, and Elizabeth and Charles now are so in love with South Africa. Well, they gave it away, in essence. She's not the monarch. And I don't know, how do I say it? They're falling into a trap of the global government. So I'm not running for office. I am the legal heir, and I would not have done that to them. I can promise you. Well, I guess they think they're doing better now, I suppose. But in the end, the global government controls them, so you have to be chipped. And right now in India, everybody's having to be chipped. It's the law. And anyway, Reverend Young would not see me. He was also elected to Congress, House of Representatives. Then he was mayor, and he was a reverend. And he knew all about me and what was going on. So let me see here if I can see anything else I thought Oprah might be interested in. Because Mary Welcome was Wayne's attorney. She sure should know Mary Welcome. She should know all these people. She should know Henry Mims. Oh, I want to get to this real quick. I want to say this. George Wallace was shot by a program shooter. I'm going to use it again because to me, and I know he was an honorable man. You may not like what I'm saying, but I'm going to say it. I don't like a lot you all tell either. When I look up at the TV, and all you have to do is look, and this quota to have white, black, what you're seeing now, I'm just telling you the truth. I was never prejudiced, you can believe it or not. But I've got it thrown in my face, the opposite of hate, the hate crimes on me. And part of them were black, let me tell you. You find out they are prejudiced too. I was going to address, so I'm jumping around because I want to finish this and not put it on another tape. You lose some of it by going to another tape. People don't watch. And I don't know. Anyway, Charlottesville, Virginia up here, last year, they went in there. I live here in Roanoke, Virginia. They went up there, and this whole thing has been distorted. First of all, you should go back in the history at Charlottesville. That's where that happened to Anna, and I'm going to leave it out, and a lot of other murders happened, and things that were mind control, really. But what happened in Charlottesville, they were tearing down Robert E. Lee. Now then, that makes me mad. They had no right to go in there and try to take, and boy, they've destroyed most of the rebel flags. You can't fly them, you can't, all the other statues and everything over the South. I grew up in Alabama, and yes, I like gravy and biscuits, and I didn't get much growing up, but I still like gravy and biscuits and sausage and coffee and fried okra. So now that I've said that, I guess that's about it. I've told this. I went into Coretta Scott King's. Same time I ended up going to Andrew Young's office, I believe. It was in the winter, and what had happened to me at that time was so sick. And she wouldn't speak to me. I sat there and wouldn't leave. She sent her person out, and he took me outside to talk to me. How's this in the cold? And he said, yes, we know about you. He said, we have a friend that's a doctor and of something, I've forgotten what, in South Africa. And he mentioned that, of South Africa. Remember, this is prior to me going out to Flint's and finding out my real name and all this, about me being the monarch, being kidnapped and all this. So he's telling me this ahead of time, mentioning South Africa. He said the doctor went to the dentist and he put a had a root canal done. The doctor came back and took a flying leap into the wall and busted his jaw. That's what mind control can do for you. Well, anyway, I'm going to leave it. So I hope I got all this down. And by the way, George Wallace was an honorable man. He didn't sell his soul like all these others on there. And I would think that Mrs. Obama would have gone back in my past and look where they put me down there in this fine family where they put me. And this is a fake photo. I mean, it's real, but they got them gussied up. Horror story. And they're showing Meghan Markle's background. Thought you might like to expose the real Queen of England's background. How I was brought up in the horror story that me and my sons went through, rather than you can't wait to get do a story with Meghan and Harry. Wonder why that's so important. Oprah.